Hey, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast here in Washington, D.C., I'm the newsman, Sam Sachs. Good morning to everyone, especially the designers of this kid slide in Boston, which is capable of spitting out cops at a wicked fast rate. Check this video out.
Why was it so?
My God, the dude looks like a crash test dummy flying out of there. I've got so many questions about this video, but I'm going to put them aside for now and just get the show started. And we begin with yet another indictment against Donald Trump, this one related to his role in the events of January 6th, 2021. Trump is facing 4 more charges brought by special counsel Jack Smith. They're conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. According to the indictment, quote, Trump did knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with co-conspirators known and unknown to the grand jury to defraud the United States by using dishonesty, frauds, and deceit to impair, obstruct, and defeat the lawful federal government function by which the results of the presidential election are collected, counted, and certified by the federal government. Smith alleged that the purpose of all this was to overturn the results of the 2020 election and stay in power. Trump was previously indicted in New York on charges of wire fraud, and he's also facing charges related to unlawful retention of classified documents. That case was brought by the special counsel's office as well. But this latest indictment is the most serious one facing the president. Court filing also mentions 6 unnamed co-conspirators, 4 of them attorneys, 1 a Department of Justice official, and 1 a political consultant, all accused of assisting the president in the scheme to disrupt the counting of electoral votes at the Capitol on January 6th. Based on the description of these co-conspirators, it's easy to uncover who nearly all of them are. One of them is quite clearly Rudy Giuliani, as the indictment detailed his attacks against 2 election poll workers. Another one is White House attorney John Eastman, who helped to devise the plan to overturn the election. Also, Trump attorney Sidney Powell, who made wild claims about an international conspiracy involving voting machines. Another one of the unnamed co-conspirators is likely Ken Chesebro, who, as the indictment describes, attempted to implement a fake elector scheme to give Trump more votes in the Electoral College. And co-conspirator number 4 is Jeffrey Clark, who is Trump's man in the Department of Justice, who was nearly made Attorney General by Trump because Clark was the only one willing to use the department to execute Trump's self-coup. The indictment included a stunning detail about how committed Clark was to seizing power illegally. He's identified again as co-conspirator 4 in this passage. Quote, Deputy White House counsel tried to dissuade co-conspirator 4 from assuming the role of acting attorney general. The Deputy White House counsel reiterated to co-conspirator 4 that there had not been outcome-determinative fraud in the election, and that if the defendant remained in office nonetheless, there would be riots in every major city in the United States. Co-conspirator 4 responded, well, that's why there's an Insurrection Act. Wow. So not only was there a plot to halt the counting of votes, but also one to declare martial law after the self-coup and deploy the military on the streets. The identity of the 6th co-conspirator is not known. They're only described as a political consultant who helped implement the fake electors plan, which I'm going to choose to believe is Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Or at least that's who I'm rooting for it to be. Now, this case is going to hinge on whether or not Trump actually knew his claims about the election were lies, or if he genuinely believed them. Trump's legal team is going to argue that he absolutely did believe them and still does, but the indictment contains lots of evidence to the contrary. It details how Trump was briefed by senior leaders at the Justice Department, the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, senior White House attorneys, senior campaign staff, state legislatures, federal courts, all telling him the same damn thing. The election was not stolen. But the indictment alleges that Trump, quote, deliberately disregarded the truth. And then there's an exchange between Trump and his vice president, Mike Pence, after Pence refused to agree to a plan to throw out votes that were counted in Congress. Trump told Pence, quote, "You're too honest," which really sounds like Trump knew his election claims were bogus. Despite everything, Trump still remains the frontrunner by a wide margin in the GOP primary, and the latest polls between Trump and Biden show a tie. And I'm not entirely sure if him going to jail changes this dynamic. Democrats could have prevented Trump from ever running for office again and uncovered what's in this indictment years ago had they called witnesses for the Senate impeachment trial against Trump in the weeks after January 6th. Many of you might recall, though, that the impeachment trial took place just before Valentine's Day, and Senator Chris Coons convinced the party to wrap up the trial quickly without calling witnesses so he could fly back home and be with his wife for the holiday. Great work, Chris. Really. Anyway, to make matters worse for the president, the judge that was randomly assigned to this case, Tanya Chutkin, is an Obama appointee who has handed out some of the toughest punishments to date for January 6th rioters. So, as you can imagine, Trump supporters are deeply upset over this news, and they're engaging in self-harm. Okay, how the hell is he going so fast? That's what I want to know. Are there like magnets inside accelerating him? This is all just so baffling. Uber is boasting that it generated a quarterly profit for the first time in its history. The company reported $394 million in profit in the second quarter of the year. But overall, it has still lost more than $31 billion. So this is like doing a touchdown dance when your team is down 49-7. Going back to 2009, investors with access to cheap money sunk fortunes into the company in hopes that one day it could operate in the green. All that largesse, plus a commitment to exploiting drivers, allowed Uber at its onset to keep prices artificially low and drive out competition in the taxi industry. Well, now that cabs are gone and Uber is the dominant force, the company has steadily increased fares to the point where it now costs more to take an Uber than it did to take a taxi cab. That, plus the ongoing exploitation of its drivers, allowed the company to finally turn a profit. It's been a decade and a half since Uber came onto the scene, and by almost every single measure, the world is worse off because of it. If I had a time machine, I'd go back to 2008 and give taxi companies the software to allow people to hail a cab from their phone. Or better yet, I'd go back in time, find Travis Kalanick, and... Turning now to Niger, where the Western-friendly government was deposed in a military coup this week. The resource-rich nation has been beset by economic and security problems despite, or perhaps because of, its close ties to countries like France and the United States. Niger supplies uranium to French nuclear power plants, and the U.S. operates a drone base in the country and provides millions of dollars in security and economic assistance. But supporters of the coup say they want Western troops out of the country, and they want more control over their own resources. The dominant uranium mining company in Niger is owned primarily by the French government. As the People's Dispatch reported, quote, Niger produces over 5% of the world's uranium, but its uranium is of a very high quality. Half of Niger's export receipts are from sales of uranium, oil, and gold. 1 in 3 light bulbs in France are powered by uranium from Niger, at the same time as 42% of the African country's population live below the poverty line. The people of Niger have watched their wealth slip through their fingers for decades. It added, quote, the corruption that is talked about in Niger is not about petty bribes by government officials, but about an entire structure developed during French colonial rule that prevents Niger from establishing sovereignty over its raw materials and over its development. In response to the coup, France cut off all foreign aid to the country. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged the prior government to be restored or risk losing economic and security assistance as well. The coup government's supporters appear to want a clean break with the West. People have been seen in the streets of Niger waving Russian flags. Good news! One of the world's only interstellar spacecrafts is communicating again. NASA's Voyager 2 probe, which was launched in 1977 and officially broke out of our solar system in 2018, went silent earlier this week. The communication breakdown happened after Mission Control sent the craft a bad chain of commands, which led to Voyager shifting its antenna away from Earth and unable to send signals back home. But with the help of an array of satellites across Earth and in orbit that make up the Deep Space Network, NASA was able to finally receive a signal from Voyager 2 again, a faint heartbeat as officials described it. In mid-October, the vessel is expected to make an automatic reorientation maneuver, which should fully restore comms with the probe. Voyager 2 is about 12.4 billion miles from Earth right now. Its companion probe, Voyager 1, was the first to escape the solar system and is still communicating with NASA at a distance of 15 billion miles away. Both crafts were sent out to explore the outer reaches of the solar system and have relayed tons of information about Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, providing the world with some of the first images of these celestial giants. Voyager probe continues to provide NASA useful data about deep space. It was scheduled to be shut down this year, but back in April, the space agency announced it had made some tweaks to its power supplies to allow the craft to continue to send data back to Earth until 2026. Voyager has recorded evidence of life in the universe, just not of the intelligent variety. Take a look. Sorry, I had to do it one more time. Like, why is he on his stomach when he flies out? What is going on there? Before we get to the sunrise, I just wanted to let everyone know that the MMN team is taking a short August recess, just like lawmakers in Washington are doing right now. After today's show, we're going to recharge and return 2 weeks from now. Not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. So no MMN the rest of this week or next week. But rest assured, I will be back. All right, friends, the show ends this morning with a sunrise from Colorado. It was sent in by Pierre in Denver. Enjoy. Okay, last time. Sorry, last time. I swear. All right, here's the sunrise from Pierre in Denver. Thank you, Pierre. Show's over. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Please sign up for Means TV if you haven't yet. Take advantage of that 7-day free trial membership. Also, subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. One day capitalism will fall. Until then, we'll be right here. See you in 2 weeks.